Yeah, so this is the question and answering section time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got like what I think would be good is everybody here. I mean, you can ask anyone a question if I'm honest with you. I kind of see it like old school days, like where everyone's sitting around the circle and asking questions and just getting to know each other, a little juice box and a little biscuit. Do you know what I mean? So I if possible, just can I kick it off? I've got
Go for
a
it.
cool. I've got a question for Catrice actually. And my question is that how do you feel there can be more representation, or like how do you feel would be a good start or a good way of bringing more representation to mental health amongst the Black community without having this lingering stigma about Black people in America? Because obviously I'm from England, so I'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on in Baltimore, America in general.
Well, that's a really it's a perfect question, but it's a complex solution. And it's one we can't do by ourselves. Because stigma isn't coming from the people who are stigmatized, it's coming from the people who embrace the stigma. So, of course, one thing is education, but you can educate all you want. But if somebody's not interested in absorbing that or embracing that or even reflecting upon their own blind spots, you're talking to a wall. So the first thing we have to understand is that we will not reach everybody or even most people. Who we will reach are people who are willing to hear. And being the animals that we are as human beings, as humans, humans learn often by behavior and consequence, right? So you're talking multiple prongs. You're talking legislation, which is something they're working on in Baltimore. Yes, you know the poet. So you're talking about we have a whole with Zeke Cohen here, one of our he's a councilman right now. He has a whole and they have a whole initiative going on called Trauma Informed Care, where they're creating and crafting committees and legislation in order to handle that legislative piece, which will be consequence for people who don't want to be bothered seeing the humanity in others, but also it supports programs for people who need more access to mental health. Yes. Then once you make that, the reason I'm saying it that way is because then it has to be normalized. And that's harder. How do you normalize that people are human beings to people who are desperate to see others as non human? That's going to take a long time. You're talking about generations of ills, of ignorance, of willfulness to not see people as human. That starts in the family. We pray that we start outside of it in the community where we can begin to model these things and as humans, how we treat each other, create legislation. But the fact of the matter is, you go to the country clubs and things like these are the things that are whispered in the dark. For a woman like me who went to I had an excellent education with reach. There are corners that we're never going to be able to touch unless someone takes it into that corner. And that's difficult because most of the people are the people that control things in our cities and states. So you're talking about human beings being willing to come out of their designated places where they thrive and be able to challenge their status quos in their corners of community. And that is a very hard thing to do. So we're talking about allies doing a lot of hard work at home, a lot of hard work that will be daunting for them just as much as it is a lot of suffering for us uh, in our community. And somewhere we have to meet in the middle. This will not be anything that is done overnight. This is going to be bit by bit by bit, tiny bit, crumb by crumb, generation by generation. But in the meantime, we just have to keep living, and we have to keep feeling joy, and we have to really live abundantly, and really resist getting stuck in we're not feeling well, we're suffering, because the more you tell yourself these things, you have to acknowledge that you need help and go get it. But we absolutely have to start beginning to get free and embracing our joy as well, while we also get the mental health that we need, because you can't be abundant without embracing that. Okay. And then that's a whole nother thing. And then we're going to get into epigenetics and all this kind of stuff and what we teach our families. And so, I hope I touched on teeny bits of what you asked me. Love you.
100% you did. I knew you was the right person to ask. Everyone was there. We can just feel that right person to ask. I like that. Oh. I'm literally open up the floor to anybody. Anybody that wants to ask a question can ask a question. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, go for it, Henry.
Do you believe that we have this fear of embracing power in terms of making ourselves whole? Because it seems like we do have some resources to kind of begin that journey toward wholeness. We have the books in terms of, for those of us that don't believe we're anything that prove otherwise, you got those scholars trying to do things. But do you believe that part of the problem is that we don't want to embrace that journey toward wholeness because it seems like some would rather embrace the pain? That's my question, because I see a
good
lot of that
question.
embracing the pain, and even on the personal level. I think everybody has that friend, whether it's from a relationship or whatever, and years later they're coming to you with that same stuff. You're like, come on, let that go, let that go. Do you believe that in terms of we're afraid of embracing the power to do it? That's my question.
I don't think it's so much being afraid of embracing power. I think it's more of a case of people want change, but they're scared of change.
Yeah.
Like if you've lived one way of life 20 years, for example, and then someone turns around and says, step outside your door. Like you're gonna be quite apprehensive to step outside. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you've lived a certain way for so long. And I feel like also with systems and controls, and I'm only speaking from like from like being in England. I'm not sure about America so much. And I know Just Star's gonna say something afterwards. But I feel like people are afraid of change and they're so used to being downtrodden and they're so used to being able to carry the pain. So not so much like they love pain. They're so used to being able to carry the pain that it's easy now. It's easy for someone to kick me down because I know I'm going to get back up, but I'm not going to get back up and elevate. I'm just going to get up and carry on. And I feel like it's a lot easier for people to carry on than it is for people to elevate. Now, when you are talking about elevation, there are changes that you have to make internally as well as externally. And it's a lot easier to make external changes than internal changes, right? So when you're asking someone to change internally, just like Catrice was saying, that's something that happens over a stretch. It's not like you wake up the next day and it's like, okay, cool, I'm changed now. Like, let's do this. Like it happens over a stretch. And I feel like people are afraid of that stretch because getting knocked down whilst you're trying to elevate is a lot different than getting knocked down and just coming back up again. So I believe that it's the act of changing that people are apprehensive. I wouldn't say they're scared. I would say they're apprehensive. And I would also say that it's what they want, but their eyes aren't open to how to get it. That's what I would say without waffling on a bit too much. But I know just Star wants to drop a little something, so I'm gonna let her drop her stars.
You weren't waffling, man. That was good.
Right.
The whole point. Oh, go on in, Gary.
Yeah, I just want to say in following up what you said, which is from a personal point of view, you know, I'm quite open about the depression. I've suffered it from my first up, but there's a thing where, and I think it's something what's in Black people, whatever the country, you become resolved to this is your lot. And there's been times recently where I've just felt like, you know what, this is as good as it gets. I'll put my head above the pulpit. I'm being shot down, and I'm getting hassle. I'm getting probably this is as good as as good as it gets for Gary, the Black man living in England. And Good Friday, I had some numerous racist things happened to me, and that day, which just put me into, just couldn't understand it, just couldn't get it. Why me? Why me? Why am I? And I literally went back to thinking, well, you know what? This is my lot. It took me a bit of work and a bit of like talking to friends and people who know you inside out to say that is not your lot. And I say Catrice Nosson, she's one of the people I've spoken to. Is that I see that in Black people. I see it in refugees. I see it in asylum seekers. I see it's like, okay, this is our lot. They've let us have this right. They even let you guys have a Black president for a little while. This is our lot. And what came out recently after during COVID, because the COVID affected the Black community a lot more, and not only because they were the majority of the doctors, was that coming from Black Conservative MPs, brainwashed, they were saying we should be thankful for a lot. They're thankful for what we got. So you shouldn't be striving for more, and that adds to that trauma, because you want to strive more. You want to give more to your family. One of the reasons I started to say it loud is when my 24-year-old son then came home from, he'd been around the world, and then when he was in London, and he just told me about some racist stuff, what happened to him, and I just thought, this is the same stuff what happened to me 20 odd years ago. And it's almost, if at that point I could have quite easily said, son, this is my lot, this is our lot. We've got jobs, we've got house, and we live, but because of that, and that is a trauma I personally find by being a Black person, which is really hard to come back to anything else. Sorry for taking your time, guys.
No, not at all, Gary. Not at all. Like, also, there's one thing that I forgot to mention, is that, so you see, when it comes to the body, right? You know how the body can withstand pain to the point where it doesn't recognize it as pain no more. I think personally, and you guys could argue with me if you want to, I don't mind, like, I'm from South London, like, we love a good argument, you know what I'm saying? But like, I personally think that
I disagree.
come, let's go.
I'll be referee. Let me get my bell. 1 sec.
Old school WWE days. Let's do it. But like, I think, like, with the body, like, if you look at the body itself, and I'm not even just talking external, I'm talking the soul as well. We're talking chakra points. the body will take pain to the point where it doesn't feel like it's pain anymore, because it's used to it. It's used to that pressure, right? Now, I feel like with your soul, with your brain, whatever, you can withstand something to the point where it doesn't even affect you anymore because you're so used to it. You look at things like Stockholm syndrome. You're captured, and things are happening to you to the point where you befriend the person that captures you, because you're just used to that presence. And I feel like we are at a stage where we're used to this level of, I'm gonna call it torture straight up.
Do you think it's used to it or expected to be used to it, expected to deal with it, like a bit what I was saying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that as well, like where it's like it's so embedded into our genes. It's like, I'm black, like I know I'm gonna get stopped, so I might as well just wait for the police to come. Or, I'm black, I know I'm not gonna get this, so like, why do I bother? When really that mindset and that thinking, like, nah, that needs to change. We need to flip that narrative. And like I said before, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it can definitely be done.
That's why we're doing this, isn't it? We're opening the conversation, we're talking.
Facts. So yeah. Now I'm gonna
Can I just say something quickly? Sorry.
Go for it.
I
Now
was
this
gonna
is
say
all
something
you.
with Gary because like Gary was saying similar things to you, which made sense, and obviously because you both obviously have dealt with similar things, and the fact of you saying about keeping your head above water, and Gary was sort of saying similar things, where you're like not expecting to elevate more, like you're expected to just be okay with whatever, and that's not okay. And it's kind of like around here where I live in a village now. Yeah, I had to move away because of my PTSD and that, and in so it's like mostly white people, and obviously, I mean, look at the economy, but you know what I'm saying. And one of the pubs is a racist pub, and I went in there and I got into an argument with them, and like I had the whole pub against me because it's a racist pub. And afterwards, everyone was like, well, "Why'd you go in a racist pub?" No, why is there a racist pub? Like the problem is not that. Do you know what I mean? This is what I'm saying to everyone. No, like it pissed me off that everyone. Sorry, it annoyed me that everyone was like, "Well, you went in a racist pub." Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was a racist pub because it shouldn't be a racist pub. We're in 2021. Well, this was last year, 2020. Why is there a racist pub? And why is it my fault for going in a racist pub? Just throwing it out there. But yeah, anyway, we've got hands up, but I don't want to take up too much time. But
no, you're right. I see Catrice and Sandra raise their hands, so we'll go with Sandra, and then Catrice, you can go afterwards.
It was just to pick up on something you said about the sort of learnt behaviour, that it's embedded in our genes, that we have the mindset that, oh, because I'm black, I'm going to be stopped. I'm going to be really controversial here and just say, yes, it is embedded in your genes, but I think you have to make that conscious decision not to think like that. You've got to break the cycle, because if you don't break the cycle, then you're just perpetuating it. You're not living for yourself, you're living for others' expectations of you. So
I get what you're saying, but I think some people have that, especially young men, young black men, like, and I'm sure they will be able to say it. And the poet's spoken as well. We've spoken, and he's in America, and they have no choice. Like that's a daily thing. So I don't know, but I hear what you're saying.
You always have a choice.
No, but you don't have a choice about being pulled over.
No, you don't have a choice of being pulled over. You have a choice of how you handle the situation.
Are you saying it's like your actions and reactions?
Well, I'm giving an experience of when I was living in Tottenham, and I was in a relationship at the time, and I used to drive my partner's car at the time. It was a very nice car. I got pulled over driving it on my own, and I was asked, what do you do? I was very cheeky. I was very cheeky at the age of, I think it was around 22. And they stopped me and they asked me what I did. I said I was a nurse. Well, how as a nurse can you afford to drive this car? And I actually started saying, it's none of your business, blah, blah, blah. And then I stopped and I said, I'm entitled to drive a car that I can afford to drive. and that totally, I could have gone the other way of which I was going to go, which could have escalated the situation. I could have been arrested. I could have been whatever they do, because I know in, you know, where I was in Tottenham at the time, it was quite volatile because of the Broadwater Farm sort of riots and stuff like that. I chose to change the narrative that I was going to come out with, and it had a totally different situation. Every situation's unique, but it doesn't matter what happens to you in life, you always have a choice. It's just making that choice, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but sometimes I always equate every hardship I've had in my life, I've now said, it's like labor, you've got to go through it to get to the other side, to get the gift. But that's just my coping mechanism, my way of handling things. But I do think you have a choice, and it's a choice you make that may have that outcome.
You know, when you speak about choice, are you speaking in terms of like actions and reactions?
Yeah.
So like how you acted with the police officer brought about a different reaction to, say,
Yes.
if you're like, are you talking
But
about?
if I'd have gone with my, I'm going to get really mouthy here and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, it would have been a totally different outcome.